I will at this time go ahead and ask Stan if he is ready to honor our birthday folks for March.
I'm ready. Can you hear me?
I can.
Good. Well, we are in March and right here on St. Patrick's Day, no less. And although I've been around for a slew of St. Patrick's Days, I really didn't know diddly about the man himself. All I knew that he was born on March 17th and discovered the four-leaf clover, and once got so mad at the King of Ireland that he shouted, "Give me liberty or give me death." None of that is true. Um, but I did do a little research, and here's a little bit of what I learned. He's obviously one of the most widely known people in Christianity. He's familiar as the patron saint of Ireland. Unfortunately, many of the stories associated with Patrick are false, sort of like George Washington chopping down that cherry tree. For one thing, he wasn't Irish. He was actually born in Britain, not Ireland, sometime in the 5th century. Don't know exactly when. And when he was 16, Patrick, who was actually named Maewyn, that was his name when he was born, was captured by a group of Irish raiders who attacked his father's estate, and he was taken to Ireland and forced to tend a herd of sheep for 6 years, which is a pretty lonely and depressing deal. And while he was with the sheep, he turned to religion for comfort, and that's when the dreams started. Some say he had a dream about a ship that was waiting for him to escape from captivity. Others write of God's voice telling Patrick to leave Ireland and return to Britain. So he did. He walked 200 miles to the coast of Ireland where he caught a boat to Britain. And then things get a little murky here historically, but ultimately Patrick was reunited with his family. And then he had another dream telling him to go back to Ireland, this time as a missionary. And he was, according to his own spiritual autobiography, deeply moved. But Patrick had a problem because he spent all that time with sheep instead of studies. He felt like he was uneducated and he wouldn't really fit for mission work. And so for the next 15 years, he began religious studies and was ordained as a priest. And one of the George Washington and the cherry tree parts of his story is that he supposedly introduced Christianity to Ireland. But the truth of the matter is there were already Christians there when he arrived. So he did minister to them in fine fashion and tried to convert the pagans that lived amongst them. And it was pretty rough going. But he was very careful not to offend the non-Christian Irish, most of whom worshiped nature. But he stayed on the edge all the time of being in trouble with the non-Christians. He knew the language and the culture of Ireland very well from his sheep days. And so he was able to weave the Christian message into the traditions of the Irish, like using bonfires for worship and superimposing the sun on the Christian cross, making what is now known as the Celtic cross. He wasn't a brilliant scholar, but he kept the message of the gospel simple. I read in my research, a biographer wrote, he said, the moral and spiritual greatness of the man shines through every stumbling sentence of his rustic Latin. So he was a good worker, but not necessarily a genius. Although Patrick is known as the patron saint of Ireland, he never was actually canonized by the Catholic Church. And that was largely due to the fact that in those days they didn't have a formal canonization process. And so he was likely proclaimed a saint by popular acclaim. And by the end of the 7th century, he'd become a legendary figure. The legends have continued to grow. He supposedly drove all the snakes out of Ireland. I don't know if he did or not. He himself wrote that he raised people from the dead, and legend has it that he raised 33 people. He supposedly came across a group of hungry sailors who were hungry, and he prayed for food, and a herd of swine miraculously appeared. And of course, the most popular legend is the shamrock, which he did use to explain the Holy Trinity to unbelievers. And today, the shamrock is the national flower of Ireland. And it's believed that he died on March 17th, 460 AD. And we're still trying to determine if his final words were, "It's not easy being green." Which leads us to our own green, Robert, that is, who was born on March 5th, sometime in the mid-20th century. His birthday is preceded by Callie Calloway on March 4th, and they're followed by Kim Lesage on March 12th. Sage, of course, being a shade of green, and Jared Dunbar, who might be a little blue right now due to the Devils, but still partied on March 14th. Melissa Varner is a year younger on the 22nd, and the ageless Sonny Kuntz celebrates on the 26th. And that leaves us with the triplets, Keith Tobin, Bill Pless, and Stan Walters, to wrap up our March Madness. To my knowledge, this is the first time the Rotary Club's ever had 3 Rotarians share the same birthday, at least in the past 20 years. So there's 9 great Rotarians, gives us 9 reasons to sing. And if Tom Smith will lead us in happy birthday, we'll have a happy St. Patrick's Day.
Let's do it. Everybody needs to unmute. And let's have at it. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Rotarians. Happy birthday to you.